Hey, D-Badders, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Bad Boy Running, and welcome to our next guest. We really like to tell the complete story of what happens in the running world. And Tommy's story was actually forwarded to me by a D-Badder who said we should get Tommy on the podcast. And the reason why we wanted to get Tommy on is because often you'll see situations where runners fall into dire situations, and we've heard of deaths out in the fells, out in China. And so we wanted to speak to Tommy about his story to really get a sense of partly what leads up to a situation arising, but then what are the repercussions, who is involved, and kind of big up the heroes that can rescue people as well. So welcome to the podcast, wonderful Tommy Price. Hey! How you doing, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good stuff.
Excited. Happy to be alive, I guess.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
Well,
Yeah,
why don't you,
should be
yeah,
dead
why
really,
don't you tell us
but
a bit of, yeah, why don't you tell a bit about your background and kind of, I guess how your relationship with running and trail and things like that. Oh no, oh yeah, we got you back. We got you back.
yeah, sorry, it went off then. My bad.
Yeah, no problem. Well, why don't you introduce it why don't you explain to the people at home a little bit about your kind of, what would you say your relationship with fitness, with running, with trail, those type of things are?
Yeah, so I got into fitness at an early age when I was like 8 years old. I used to do archery with my dad and brothers, so it wasn't like very endurance based. But later on, me and my brother, because he's 6'5", so he got into basketball, and we just started doing that. We played at a local league, and then we just got progressively better and better. And then finally, we ended up playing for Wales internationally. So
I didn't
we
know
got,
this.
yeah. So that's
This
where
wasn't part of the story I was expecting. No way.
that's where my fitness background comes from. And obviously, my brother's 2 years older than me. So when he was 18, and I was playing for the under-16s Wales team, he was playing
Yeah.
for the under-18s. He got a weights program included with his Wales basketball program, and we started going to the local gym in West Yorkshire, where we live in Denbydale, and the two gym owners did fell running. So at the end of every Wednesday basketball session, when I used to play for Sheffield Sharks, we used to do a mile run, and we had to do it under 6 minutes, or we weren't allowed to play on the weekend. So I thought, oh, a great way to keep my fitness up is to go out running with these guys. So they took me on trails around my hometown, and then I did a few competitions going up like the fells, and I just really enjoyed it. And then later on, I tore my ligaments in my ankle playing basketball, so I got into uh, men's physique, which is a bodybuilding style of shows, like bodybuilding style shows. And I didn't do much cardio then. Stopped playing basketball, but then later on, I've always wanted to do an Ironman. So I signed up to it, trained up for that, and then met this guy called Max who was on the fell with me the day of my accident, and we just started going training. He started training with me, and then we just started getting back on fells. We went to the lakes one time in summer. We just started doing fell running again. I fell in love with it again, and then ever
Well,
since then I've started doing it again.
before we kind of continue that journey into fells, because I mean, I want to know about Welsh basketball firstly, and I want to know
Yeah,
about the body fitness, this training thing, because we've not talked about that before in the body. But what is the state of Welsh basketball? I mean, is it, because I don't even know what the state of English basketball is, and I imagine Welsh basketball probably isn't quite as competitive again, but maybe it is. Like, how does it
yeah.
work? Who do you play? Where's the national
Mm.
team?
So it's based in Wales. When I played for them, they were based in South Wales, but then they moved up to North Wales. I was able to play for them because my mum and dad are both Welsh. So, uh, but then we play in FIBA tournament. So we went to San Marino when we played in the FIBA tournament and won bronze. And my brother's age category won gold. But we were in
Wow.
division. So there's different divisions. So we were in Division C. England's in Division B. So they're a little bit higher up than us because
And
they've got more.
which kind of countries would be in Division B and which in Division C?
Yeah, so in Division C, we were playing San Marino, Moldova, Gibraltar, all the small countries. So all the small countries were in that one. And then in Division C, It's like England. I don't really know what is in Division B, to be honest. But in the
And,
big one, like Division A, it's like France, Spain, all the big ones. Yeah.
and are there professional Welsh players, or is there a kind of a league in Wales that is a kind of high enough standard that some people would be paid or
Yeah,
semi-professional? Would you
so
say? Or
there's a British basketball league, so people get paid. I think the highest paid in Sheffield Sharks. When I played for Sheffield Sharks, the highest paid person was in the professional men's team was like £50,000. Nothing compared to like the American standard.
yeah, but still,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it
Pretty
pays the
decent.
good.
bill.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
all right, but you got to be really good.
And would you play to crowds of people? Was there that kind of
Yeah, there's
excitement
crowds of
there? Is
people.
everyone?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So one of my old basketball teammates in Wales actually plays for the Welsh national rugby team now. He's in the Six Nations and stuff.
Oh wow! Oh, incredible. You'd think
Yeah,
there'd be maybe he's a lock or something with huge height
yeah.
or.
I know. That's crazy.
And so then you also mentioned how you were in, was it weights or bodybuilding or
Yeah, so
into
it's
that?
called men's physique, so it's a category in bodybuilding. So once I tore my ligament, and me and my brother started getting into the weight room, and then we learnt about diet and stuff, like macros, protein, fat, carbohydrate. Started like learning about that, and then we seen like you see like changes in your body, and you get addicted. And then we thought, why not? I thought, let's compete, see what it's about. But
And what do they test in a competition? What are you
so
what are you competing?
so it's just about your leanness and stuff. Yeah. To be honest,
Just kind of like
I've
your
done it.
Mr. Universe, where
Yeah,
it's
yeah, a
based
little bit.
on
To be honest,
aesthetics
I did
and
it. I did it, but just it's just pointless. Like, it's not very good. You're not
Why is
really
it
trained.
pointless?
Yeah, it's okay, but it's just some judges. If they like the look of you on the day, they like the look of you, like
mm,
anything. But like in running, you've got to be actually good at it to win. You know what I mean?
there's
It
less.
don't show if somebody could have better genetics than you, and you
Yeah,
could go on stage and you could have been training harder than them, just like that in bodybuilding, really.
there's more to do with the aesthetic. It's the
Aesthetics,
aesthetic
yeah,
of how
yeah,
your muscles look, but then it's also the subjective choice of the
yeah.
judge.
Subjective choice, yes. If they think you're good looking, they probably mark you down better.
And is it something where like how much of being good at that is determined by the training and how much is determined by the nutrition, would you say?
Yeah, if you dial down your nutrition, like it's very unhealthy to be honest. Right at the end,
Mm.
you're like 5% body fat, really unhealthy. Like I think I got a food disorder after it, mate, because my mental state after it, I just like binged. It was really bad, and then since I've took up like Ironmans in the ultra sports and stuff, yeah, I can like eat pretty much whatever I want and still look good.
And do you think you were binging because you restricted it so much previously, or?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you just crave little things. When I like scrolling through like Facebook and Instagram, seeing pictures of food, I used to like my mouth just to water. It was weird. It's
Interesting.
not healthy at all. I don't think
Yeah,
anyway.
okay.
What
How
lots
long
of
we
people think it like people that go into the bodybuilding do like one show and then that just it's just so mentally unhealthy that they don't want to do it again.
yeah, I mean, is the sport aware of that danger, do you think, or
Yeah, definitely.
is
Yeah, I think so. I think they're getting more aware of it now. Yeah.
I guess it's ultimately it's almost impossible to be looking like that without being unbelievably lean.
Yeah,
Whereas,
definitely.
which is
Yeah.
also true of some running. You're probably not going to win the London Marathon unless you look
No, if you're not properly in,
incredibly lean as well. But yeah. So then with fell, then how long would you say you were a fell runner before, or you'd had experience of fell before the incident?
So since I was 16, I started doing fell running. So I'm 27 now. When had my accident, I was 26. So 10 years off
And
and off and on.
and would you how would you assess your kind of competence and confidence level going
Yeah,
into the
yeah, pretty good at running. So I've got I'm really good at road running. My PB for 10K is 37:18. My half marathon's 1:24:18, I think.
But
And
in terms of, I guess in terms of
and
under,
fell running.
because like fells, I go to a fell and I'd happily run any fell in the Lake District, but then I'd also be aware that I'm not really, I'm a Londoner who doesn't understand the weather and really doesn't know the routes as well. Would you say you got a sense of understanding or appreciation of
Yeah,
of,
because I'm
of
from West Yorkshire. I live right next to the Peak District, so I'm quite aware of that. And when I was younger, I used to go on lots of walks with my dad's up like Scarfell and Snowdon, all stuff like that. And then the Brecon Beacons when I was a kid because they're
do
from
you want to
South
talk us
Wales.
do you want to talk us through then kind of what you remember happening at the time?
So I can't actually remember. I can only remember one bit of the day. Everything else is what my mate Max has told me. So the only thing I remember is parking up in Keswick at the Longstay car park and going into Keswick town centre into Alpkit. And we bought Max a thermal top because he'd actually left his at home. So I bought him a thermal top. It was a cold day. And then we
Yeah,
went back in the car and just said, right, let's get going. And we straight up Skiddaw. It was bad conditions when it started. It was like freezing point, 0 degrees. We were going up Skiddaw, it's snowing. We passed this couple in like trainers, and then we were saying to each other they're never going to make it to the peak. And then once we reached the peak,
because
it was like,
what were you wearing? Do you know what you were wearing when you
yeah.
set
So
off?
I was wearing my mud claws, my Innovate mud claws. We were wearing shorts and leggings, a thermal top, t-shirt, and a rainproof jacket, and a snood and a beanie hat.
Hmm.
So we were
There were a
quite
lot of
well
players,
prepared,
really.
and we had a hydration vest with fluid and gels and stuff, and obviously the survival bivvy, which came in use later on. Yeah,
So well equipped actually for.
yeah, quite well equipped. The only thing we've done differently now that it's happened, we've bought like the best gear, going full, like full waterproof, the best waterproof stuff you can get, just in case it does like start leaking through.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so then you were heading up to the peak.
Yeah,
If that's
heading up Skiddaw, it was really bad. We passed this guy in full expedition gear. We just got straight off the peak, straight down into the valley, and then up Great Calver. Got up Great Calver, and then in between Great Calver and Blencathra, there's a river that you have to cross on the first leg of the bog graham. I did it just the other day, to be honest. This guy called Kirk and Tim, they were doing a challenge called the Cumbrian, which they did the frog graham straight into the bog graham, straight into the Fred Whitten.
yeah.
But Tim had to drop out on Skiddaw, but Kirk actually did it in 57 hours. So he did
Wow.
it. Yeah, he did it. It was crazy. So I supported him on the first leg of the bob, and then Max
And just for
supported
the
him.
listener at home, explain what the frog graham is.
So I think the Frog Graham's a 40-mile run over, I can't remember how many peaks, and then you've got to swim between 4 lakes, and then the Bob Graham's a 67-mile run with 42 peaks involved. I think the total, and then the Fred Whitten's a 112-mile bike ride with 4,000 meters of elevation. I think he did like something 17,000 meters of elevation in total. It's
Wow.
crazy.
So it's basically one of the hardest triathlons you can do. That combination of three.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was in a
And
dark place
and
at the end of the Bob.
oh, was Bob last?
No, the Bob was in the middle, so I did the first leg and then the last bit of road into Keswick with him, and he was falling asleep while he's running. It's just crazy.
Jeez.
I just had to
Wow.
keep talking to him.
So then you came down into the valley, you said, and you're approaching
Yeah, and
the
then
river.
the river there, yeah, so it was quite high because it was snowing. The river, me and Max took about 8 minutes deciding which was the best route to cross it because you have to actually submerge yourself in it. There's no other way. There's no bridge to cross.
Mm.
Uh, and then we actually took the route that we thought we were gonna do at the beginning. Went just below our knees. It was like it must have been like 2 degrees or 1 degree water temperature. It was freezing.
Mm.
Max said, and obviously it's really boggy between Great Calver and Blencathra. Max went in, and it went up to his waist in one of the bogs, and then I went in a little bit shallower, and then it's straight into the Blencathra in ascent, straight after the river crossing. So I was saying, I did a basketball match the night before, actually. I play for Manchester Wolves now. And I played the majority of the game, so my legs were cramping up on the bob, the first leg of the bob, and I was saying to Max, because we were going to do the second leg the next day, I said, oh, we should have a rest tomorrow. My legs are aching. But on the ascent, I started dropping to my knees. Max had to come behind me, start picking me up. He was like, what are you doing? He was like shouting at me, trying to snap me out a bit. Just had to keep picking me up. And then eventually he just told me to hold on to his hydration vest. And he got me up to the peak of Blencathra. But we didn't go the normal route, so we kept on ascending. And I was just going into a childlike state. And I said, I don't want to ascend no more. I don't want to ascend no more. And it just clicked with him at one point, and he said, right. So he scurried around to the right of Blencathra, but then he was like, we have to ascend. So we ascended to the right of the peak. So we had to come left, and then he knew we were in a bad situation at the top because we were in complete cloud cover. And I said, we need to turn back. And it's like 11 miles back into the wilderness, or 2 miles down to Hellard. He was like, what's that about? And then at the top, I couldn't walk. I was like in a drunk state, like walking. He was like, we have to go down Horsfell Ridge here with a guy that can't barely talk or walk. He was like, I'm in a bad situation here. So we had to go like 10 meters a time down Horsfell, shouting to me, come towards me, because he couldn't let me grab hold of him because I would have pulled him off. I'm 90 kilograms, Max is only 70.
What's the terrain? What's the terrain like on the ridge? Like, just to give an idea of why that's long.
It's really bad. It's like sharp rock. Yeah, it's bad. Obviously,
and exposed.
Yeah, it's exposed. So either side, if you just fall a little bit, you drop about maybe 50 feet.
Yeah.
Really bad. To be honest, I've walked it after in sunny weather. I don't know how he got me down there. It's amazing how I like listened to him and slid down. So I was sliding down on my bum anyway. So he got me up to go on my bum. I was ripping all my shorts open. My shorts were riding up over my legging. My legging ripped open. I've still got the clothes actually. There's like massive bum cheek holes, leaving blood trails in the snow. Max looking behind, almost crying, and then I started crying to him, saying, "I'm gonna die up here." And he was like, oh. I don't know what was going through Max's head at the time because he can remember it all. And then I tried to stand up at one point and fell 5 meters. Did 3 bounces. Luckily, I didn't hit my head. Still got some scars on my leg actually, and my bum. And then he got me off the ridge somehow. It was like a mile off the ridge, and then my legs just went stiff. And I told him to try and pick me up. Came from behind again, tried to pick me up. He said, "Engage your legs." I couldn't engage my legs. They were just fully stiff. And he was like shouting at me, trying to snap me out of it. He says, "We have to effing move and stuff," just trying to get me down. Then he knew, because my phone died earlier in the day because of the cold weather. The battery runs out quicker. He knew I had a survival bib in my bag. He got it out, put it on me. Couldn't put it all the way up over me because he couldn't lift me up. He wouldn't, because I'm so heavy. He couldn't lift my bum up because I couldn't engage it. So he put it in over me as best as he could. He says, "Give me a hug." He said, "I love you." Run down to the nearest farm, which he could see because the cloud cover had gone by the time we got off the ridge. Got it down there maybe in like 15 minutes probably. Rung 999, Mountain Rescue. A guy that lives at the bottom is from Mountain Rescue called Johnny Hume. He was eating his tea at the time. He got to me with Donald. They were the first respondents. They got to me within that hour and 15. Found my survival bivvy empty. I'd crawled back up the mountain 100 meters.
Oh wow!
So they thought, oh my gosh, there's no body in here. They thought if he's gone off the side somewhere, it might be like a 2-hour mission to find him. But luckily, I was 100 meters there. I was face down in the snow, lifeless, dead. They rolled me over, started giving me compressions until the third respondent came up with the defib, attached it to me. Did 3 shocks, no response. I was in ventricular fibrillation, and then the team doctor got to me with it after 15 minutes of them arriving, and then got all the ECMO centres available around like Newcastle, I think Lancaster, maybe, is an ECMO centre. Just ringing up, seeing if they've got availability. Said they've got a prime candidate, ECMO, a very cold spell runner. Hypothermia, severe, profound hypothermia. And then they brought a mechanical CPR device up, which they attached to me, which gives the CPRs manually. They winched me down the mountain, doing 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and then they were able to winch me up into the helicopter. But Penrith Mountain Rescue brought their spare battery just in case they had to take me in the ambulance, because these batteries don't last very long. They last like 500 revolutions. So, and they're about eight grand a battery. It's crazy. And they winched me into the helicopter, took my blood sugar level. It was 1 gram, so a normal human's supposed to be between like 4 and 6. So he was scared about that, the doctor, because that could mean I get brain damage because I'm not getting any sugar to my brain. And then on the way to the helicopter, on the way to the hospital, the RVI in Newcastle, my heart went flatline. So it changed from VF, which is almost flatline, to flatline. So my heart fully stopped. So I was clinically dead for between 2 hours and 14 minutes and 3 hours and 20. And then once the helicopter landed in the RVI, because it can't land on the helicopter pad because it was the Coastal Guard helicopter, it's too big. They had to land in a field nearby, and the battery stopped on the mechanical CPR device. So John Ferris, the doctor, had to straddle me in the stretcher, giving me CPRs while they put me into this theatre. And then they attached this thing called an ECMO machine, which takes over your lung and heart function. And that's when I couldn't say I was clinically dead anymore. But it heats your core body temperature up by 10 degrees per hour. I think I was on that for 12 hours, I think. And then when my body temperature got to 28 degrees, they were able to give me another electric shock on the defib. And
Whoa!
my heart started again.
Do you know what your body temperature was before then? Because it's meant to be 37 degrees, isn't it? So...
Yeah. So when they found me, I was 18 degrees.
And
one of the lowest recorded body temperatures.
And when you, so they got your heart starting again, but when did you then come to?
Yeah, so I was in a coma for about 4.5 days, and then I woke up. The first thing I remember, I did wake up before, and all my family were there, but I can't remember that. The first thing I remember in ICU is the night this male nurse was looking after me, and obviously I was on life support, so they took the tube out of me, and I was asking for some water, and I couldn't swallow it, and I had some crazy dreams in hospital. I had a dream that I was in my mum and dad's bedroom, at the end of the bed, and my mum came in and said, "You're very ill, Tommy. You've got a sore throat," and obviously that's from the tube coming out my neck, and I was on the drugs. Because when they first got to me, I was on like 54 drugs, I think. They're just giving me loads of drugs like you shouldn't give to people that are alive. Just give to dead people just to see if they can get it back running. Like, and then yeah, I remember that. And then the first memory of a family member is my brother. My mum did come in before, but I can't remember it. She said I looked at her and just rolled back over because it's my mum. She said, you just knew she was there. And then she asked if David would come in, my brother. And we had a talk, and he was like, "Do you remember what we were doing before your accident?" Because they didn't know if I had brain damage or not. Then they did a CT scan, and it didn't show anything. But you can still have it, even when you wake up. And I said, "Yeah, we were watching a movie the night, and had a takeaway." And he was like, "No, that was the 2 days before the accident." He's like, "You went to play basketball," and then it started coming back. I was like, "Oh yeah." And then I remember we stopped at Max's and then drove to Keswick in the morning. Yeah, it's just a weird feeling. And obviously my bum was in agony. It was like 3rd-degree burns on my bum. They had to get a skin graft person in just to see if they had to do surgery on my bum. I was having morphine, but it wasn't doing much. It was such bad agony. Like morphine wouldn't do anything.
And when you kind of look back, well, firstly, and how was your friend? Because obviously,
yeah. So the night off, obviously, he ran down. He was in the paramedic tent. He rung his brother called Zach.
Out of interest, did he Strava that run down? Because I would love to know.
Yeah,
what kind of pace he was dropping? Like, was he running it recklessly? Was it just decent pace? Was he flat out or?
No. So the adrenaline was running. He said he almost tripped 3 times just trying to get down there. So he almost injured himself. He was just he was just thinking about my family and my brothers, thinking like, oh my gosh, it, so many people are gonna miss him if he does die. Because he didn't know the severity. Because when he left me, I was still conscious. The last thing he laughed about this. The last thing I said to him, he was saying to me, "We're gonna get a parking ticket in Keswick because we're driving my car." And I'm tight. I'm tight. I'm
Did
tight.
you? Did you?
No, I didn't. But I'm tight. I said, "Oh, it's okay. We'll go halves." But my dad rung the council up and obviously said his son's in a critical state. They said, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it. We're not going to give him a ticket."
So that means probably the only blessing. So
Yeah.
and did he then head back up, or
No,
was
so
that?
the mountain rescue put him in a Land Rover saying you're not coming back up because he was cold himself.
So he was just having to wait, not
Yeah,
knowing.
wait. Seen. So this is what Max seen. He was in a mountain rescue Range Rover. Obviously, like 3 guys had gone up, and then just more come, more come. He was like, "What's going on?" And they were saying he's in a bad situation. Just stay in the car. You need to keep warm. You cold yourself. And then a mountain rescue guy that put him in the car came back and said, "Oh, we're getting frequency through the radios. I have to switch this off." But he switched it off because they were saying over the radio he's dead.
Oh wow.
So that's why he switched it off. So Max didn't hear him.
And when you look back now, like, because I having heard that, it sounds like you were out in really tough conditions,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem as if, being knee deep would, in water, then coming out and, well, knee deep in mud and then starting to ascend. That doesn't sound that life threatening when you've got, your
Yeah, I
beanie,
know.
your hat, your 2 layers, your 3 layers.
Mhm.
Like, how quick would you say? Have you got a sense of what the time was from when you got out onto no longer in any kind of water to when you started to lose control of your legs, really?
About a third of the way up Blencathra, probably, Max says, I think.
And
And then once he left me, your body temperature drops by 8 degrees per hour because it wasn't actually the weather, it was the wind chill that got us. It was
mm,
minus 20 degrees wind chill
and
and 40 mile per hour winds.
and so what do you do you think once you were in the mud or in the water, do you think there's
Yeah,
anything you could have done to have, with hindsight, to have altered the course of what happened, or was that the fundamental issue?
probably when we went up to Gadar and seen the weather, we should have probably turned back. That's the
And
only thing that we should have done differently. But we're
But
very
was the weather any different from other times that you'd gone out? Like, or is it in
I,
hindsight that you're saying that?
I,
Was there
I, I
anything to give an indication that this would
mm,
be
I can't remember the weather to be honest,
mm,
personally. So I don't actually know.
different?
because
Max is the best person to answer that.
I think that's the hard question, isn't it? It's really easy to say when someone's got into trouble, you shouldn't have got
Mm.
down in that weather, but actually, it would be fascinating to know statistically, what is it, something where most people are fine most of the time if the wind chill isn't as bad, and
Yeah,
if
probably. Probably a factor in my case was I did a basketball match the night before and it was very high intensity. So I was still recovering and like the first leg of the Bob Graham still quite challenging. But me and
mm,
Max did a couple of weeks before we did another challenge with one of our other mates called the Limestone Way in the Peak District, which is a 47-mile run for homeless people in Manchester.
mm,
And then on New Year's Eve I did the Ullswater Way. So like a 13-mile run for us is like 5K really to most people.
yeah,
It didn't seem that challenging, but
and and do you think was your nutrition okay? Is the blood sugar level, is that related to nutrition on the? Because I guess if you go into it thinking this is the equivalent of a 5K for us, you probably weren't thinking nutrition as much as you
yeah,
maybe needed to.
yeah, we had gels on us and 2 liters of water each. But because it was so cold, like you don't really think you're sweating that much there, and then you don't drink as
Mm,
much water. I was actually asking Max to feed me his water at one point, and then he got back to the car. He had my hydration vest, and I didn't touch my water at all, and that's when I started going delirious. Because we usually remind each other like every 5 minutes, just take a sip of water, just even if it's a little sip, take a sip. Yeah.
And do you think if you hadn't got wet, you'd have been okay? Like, because I know obviously as soon as you are wet, then water's such a good conductor.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know
And
the science behind it. Maybe.
and how do you kind of view it? Like, so what's your recovery been like since?
Yeah, so when I got out of hospital, so when I woke up in hospital, my hands were clawed. You might be able to see it actually. Look, you see like the tendons on my hands.
Yeah.
So I've got muscle washes in my hands and feet from it. So it's called so you've got the myelin sheath and then the axon underneath your nerve. And I've had nerve conduction tests, and it's the axon that's damaged, so it's the worst possible case. So I might get full functionality of my hands back, but when they do tests, my axons will never recover.
What is the impact of that? What does that actually? So you can use them, but
yeah. So recently, I've only just been able to start tying shoelaces again. 7 months on. When I got out of hospital, I couldn't look after myself properly. I couldn't do my own hygiene, like toilet stuff. Like, had to get my mum and dad to help me. Couldn't switch the shower on. I just had no grip strength. In hospital, I couldn't feed myself. All the nurses had to feed me, brush my teeth. So I couldn't use my hands. Yeah, and obviously me being a very like independent guy and very fit, it's very frustrating. And obviously my bum was in agony. Yeah, it was just a weird situation, and then my appetite went for 3 weeks. They were feeding me like one grape in ICU, and I was being sick. Like I usually eat like 4,000 calories a day. I just couldn't eat.
Is that what they expected, or?
Yeah, so there's a chemical that gets released in your body after you've been in a very bad situation, like inside you, and it deprives your appetite. Yeah, so it's common in like ICU when they wake up people with bad things that happen to them. And then
Which seems bizarre, doesn't it? Because you'd almost assume that the body would be craving energy.
Yeah, it's mental. Like, I knew I had to eat and drink, and but I just couldn't. I was like getting my mum and dad to bring like childhood like drinks in just for me to try and do it. Because when I was that ill, I just went back to like a child. Like I wanted all my childhood like favourites, like fruit shoots, Capri Suns and stuff like that. Just easy to get down. It was weird. But when I first ever woke up in ICU and they got the physio in, try and make me stand up, I couldn't do it. I was like, oh no. In my head, I was like, I'm never gonna be able to walk again. I couldn't do it. It was just a weird feeling.
And how do you look back on it now? Like, how do you reflect? What has your conclusion been about that run, and the way you approached it? And
well, me and Max will definitely always look at like the peaks weather. Like you can look at the summit weather and make a conclusion like, should we really do that? And maybe have a rest before I do it, and not do a basketball match the night before. I think I can do it. Yeah, just like stuff like that. Just it's a learning curve. We say to everybody. Obviously, we can say it now because I'm alive, but we're pretty glad that it happened in a way because we've learned from it quite a bit.
And I think the surprising thing is you're clearly an experienced trail runner in really good fitness as well.
Yeah, so I just came off an Ironman and did the national 3 peaks with Max that summer. Yeah, it was like just a normal run. When I was in the coma for 4.5 days, he was in a state like he found out that I had a cardiac arrest from I think it was his mum that rung him because my dad told his mum what happened. Because my dad was ringing around the hospitals, finding out, pushing them. They didn't really want to say what happened to me. They said they've got a Tommy Price. Yeah, we've got a Tommy Price here. but we don't know his date of birth. And my dad was like, why do they not know his date of birth? Tommy knows his date of birth. He must be unconscious.
Oh.
So he was like, what's happened to him? And they said he's had a cardiac arrest. And then later on that night, on the 6th of January, a policewoman came to my mum and dad's house in West Yorkshire, knocked on, and said, we're here to tell you about... And my dad already knew. He was like, is it about my son? He's like, yeah, we're getting a police car to take you up to Newcastle. And he said, is that necessary? And she said, yeah, I think it is, because they thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And then my brother drove them up. He said, would it be quicker if my son drove us up? So David drove my mum and dad up. My other brother from Manchester, my mum and dad were trying to get in contact with him, told him. They all drove up. And then once they got to me, they went into the room where I was on the ECMO machine. So it's not very nice to see your son on the ECMO, because it's two tubes coming in and out of your leg. It makes your leg massive. Stops the blood flow coming through to your leg. So they kept on taking pulses of my leg, because most people have to get their legs amputated. So I'm really lucky to have my legs still.
Wow.
So I could have had no leg when I woke up. Yeah, and they were just there in the overnight room for 4 nights until I woke up, because they were seducing me quite a bit. In my coma, I was like flinging my arms around, and because I'm quite a big guy and go to the gym, the nurses couldn't stop me. I think my brother had to pin me down once and they put drugs in me. So they put
while
me
you were
into
still unconscious.
Yeah, they put me into an even more induced coma, so I didn't like knock my tubes out and stuff.
Tubes out, yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you were incredibly lucky on quite a few elements as well. The fact that the first farm was someone from the mountain rescue, the fact that they'd found you like relatively quickly, given you crawling out of the back. I mean, and what's your view on the mountain rescue now? Because obviously you didn't experience it, but you've heard about how they got involved.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before it, I knew they were a thing, but I didn't know how like they're all volunteer based. They rely on funding. That's why I'm doing the London Marathon and trying to raise money for them now. I'm trying to raise £10,000. Trying to do that for them because they saved my life. The least I could do. Yeah, it's just mental what they do. We've been back up to the lakes. The first guy that got to me, Johnny, he let us stay in his Airbnb, me and Max, and we've met John Ferris, Mountain Rescue, Donald, Johnny, all the Stuart, loads of the Mountain Rescue people, and they just think it's amazing, like the story.
How was that like meeting them, like having not experienced not remembering what you experienced, what you've been through, like it must feel incredibly surreal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was very, very emotional. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, obviously for the people that were seeing me on the mountain, seeing me alive, they thought it was incredible, like a crazy outcome. Like even the Dr. John Ferris said when he dropped me off at the Royal Victoria in Newcastle, he was in the taxi going back home to Keswick, not thinking very positively about the outcome of the situation. He thought I was going to die.
And does it feel like does it feel like a memory now, or is it because does it feel almost as if it didn't happen, or?
Yeah, I knew it happened because obviously I remember like not being able to walk and stuff the first couple of weeks, and but I don't know if I'd want to remember the day. Like I was talking to my mates, and he said my mate he's in the Marines called Sam down south, and he was like maybe you might get memories back. It might just start coming back to you, and you'll get like flashbacks. But the Dr. John Ferris said it's like a Word document. If it's not on autosave and you've had a power cut, that's the cardiac arrest. And if you haven't had it on autosave, you'll never remember it. And obviously they drug you up in the hospital to not remember any of the surgery and stuff.
Interesting. And do you think you will return to trail running again,
Yeah, I'm back out already.
And have you had any PTSD related to that, or were you able to just run freely afterwards?
Yeah. So the first 4 months I couldn't run because stupidly I did run. The day that I got discharged from hospital, I went downstairs into my brother's little gym in my mum and dad's house, and we started doing I wanted to see if I could still like bench press and stuff. I was only doing like 40 kilograms. It was such a weird feeling. Like I usually can do like 140 kilograms. I'm quite a strong guy. And then 2 days after, me and my brother went for a run, and it was a bad idea. Shouldn't have done that because I couldn't dorsiflate my feet properly, so all the pressure was on my calves. And then after the run, it was just a 5k run. It was so slow. It's like the slowest 5k I've ever done. 32 minutes. I was stood outside my mum and dad's house, and my legs were just vibrating all the way through because of my nerve damage. It's like a tingly feeling. It's like pouring like tonic water over your hand and stuff. It's like that feeling. It was such a weird feeling. And then the next day, I couldn't move. It was a bad idea to do it. And then I went to the neuro doctor, and he said you shouldn't be running because obviously it felt like I was doing calf raises, and he says it's going to put stress on your knees and hip joints. You need to just recover first. Don't take it.
I mean, I'm amazed they didn't tell you that in advance, to be fair, because that seems...
Yeah, I know. I'm just very competitive, mate. Don't like sitting around.
And I mean, and what's your kind of outlook on? Because I know some people go through experience like this. I'm just going to shut the door because I really haven't closed it, and I can hear the missus on TV.
No worries.
Got to see those shorts.
Yeah.
Would you say it's changed your outlook on life and on things at all? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. Just live in the moment now. Yeah, you'd never know when you're going to die. I didn't think I was going to die on a run.
Yeah. I mean, no one does, do they?
No, I woke up and I thought, like, because the previous memory I had was watching a movie with my brother. I thought, we've been in a car accident. I thought we were in Barnsley, not Newcastle.
What was the film? Was it something like The Running Man or something where he almost
to
be in a coma was like, whoa, it's come true. I'm in the film.
It was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh wow. Good film. It's a good film. Do you get any? Have you had any negativity around it or anything? Because normally you get a few people making some stupid comments or something like that.
Yeah.
Is anything like that?
The first mountain rescue report, we got a few comments on it. Obviously, I was in hospital still, so I didn't see it. But some guys were like, "Oh, why did they not have a mobile phone?" But we did, and it was dead. He's like, "Why would you not take mobile phone with you?" But yeah. I think there was a bit of a confusion. I think Mountain Rescue didn't think we had a mobile, but we had mine. And it died. It's the same as not having a mobile.
And even when you do, it's very hard to know where reception is going to be.
Yeah, because we're in the fells, you never know when you're going to get reception.
Yeah.
And it was down Horsefell, so it was like in a gully and stuff. So yeah, but no, not really. Not very much negativity. More positivity, like towards the Mountain Rescue team, like just showing how vital they are to saving people's lives.
Well, if people want to donate to your London Marathon page, how can they find it? What's the best way for them to do that?
So you can type in Tommy Price, Blaine Caffra, and all my news articles will come up. And if you just click on one of them, you'll find the link at the bottom of the news articles. Or if you go on the web side of the Google, if you just scroll down, you'll probably find my Just Giving page.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and telling us about your story. And I mean, fair play. And you must be one hell of a battler to got through all of that. And when you come down to London, we'll make sure there's a beer stop at mile 22 with the city hash. Yeah. So if you need a beer, let us know. And I'm sure there'll be a few of us out for drinks afterwards as well.
Definitely.
If you're looking to celebrate. And if people want to follow your future efforts, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, Tommy_Price13, and I'll probably post stuff on there.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on your recovery and long may it continue and good luck with trading up for London and I hope it really goes well.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah. Cheers. No worries. No worries. Cheers.
Wow, I mean, he's very positive and cheerful, isn't he? I guess
it's just one of those weird experiences. Like you don't. It's almost as though. I mean, he obviously had the effects of everything that came after it once he woke up, but you're not there when that's happening. You don't see how everyone else was. I suppose you see the relief from when they see that you're alive, and all the relief and that, and all that positivity comes out of it. But you don't see your parents crying. You don't see your friend, in pieces because he's trying to think about what. And so you don't have that kind of. It's a weird situation where you have all that trauma around you, but you don't experience any of it.
And actually, Pork Pie and a few friends, they were in the pool when someone they were just climbing with just fell off the side of the ledge, just walking. It just slightly misbalanced, and they then had to go down, and I think his head was cracked open. One of them went for mountain rescue. So they were in a similar circumstance where they'd had to, and I guess probably not quite as much work to do, but to try and keep someone alive and wait. And I mean, that sounds uber intense because time goes slowly. In a lot of situations, you want to go quickly. I can't imagine how it must be for Max, and just imagine being in that car and just seeing person after person heading up. Because I've got on my list of people someone from Mountain Rescue to come and talk to us, actually, because it would be really good to understand partly how the funding works, but also just who are these people? How many of them are there? How do they operate? What are their shifts like? What are the skills? What's the training? What's the expectation? How often are they called?
Because that's it. So the machine, I can't remember what the name of the machine was that he was talking about, but that is a very specific. That has a very specific. But I've never heard of that. I haven't heard of it. It keeps you alive while also bringing your body temperature up, like for those situations. That's incredible. Like it absolutely just incredible that even exists as a piece of. I mean, it makes sense, but all the things that had to happen in order for that situation to unfold in a positive way, it was incredible.
And the fact you're flying to Newcastle as well as the nearest. I mean, famously, that's the other side of the country across. If you look at the Hadrian's Wall, one side is Cumbria, the other side is Newcastle.
You think like somewhere that is a popular fell walking area, probably the most popular fell walking area in the country. You at least have some kind, but I suppose it's cost, isn't it?
There's not enough people who live there. Yeah. There's not enough big enough hospital, I guess, and then they just attach it to whichever hospital's got facilities they're using already. Yeah. And it sounds like they were, made a critical error of judgment, but it doesn't. That's the thing. You often hear
it's an error of judgment in hindsight, but there's nothing like if like not going up at all would be the thing to do in any weather situation. But but there's a lot of people that do all sorts of things in all sorts of weather conditions.
Yeah.
If poor weather conditions were the thing that stopped you from doing something on the fells, not many people would ever be out on the fells, especially in the Lake District. So having a certain element of that, and like you say, experienced runners, experienced people in those areas. It's not like someone with plimp soles and a paper map they printed off the internet.
Yeah.
That you sometimes see.
And the fact you just don't really consider wind chill factor because you look at a temperature on a map, don't you, typically, or on the internet. You don't think of things along those lines. So fascinating. And hopefully everything will return in his hands and, he'll get... The fact he's back running must be a huge relief.
I like the way you said there, why didn't... You'd think they'd tell you that you couldn't, run again after the thing. To me, I was like, surely it's assumed that you wouldn't be running. I love the fact you come from a very runner-specific thing. Well, no one specifically told me a week after out of my coma that I wasn't allowed to run again. That's a very different mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the doctors would assume that you wouldn't. Whereas as runners, you'd assume that they would.
Yeah, if they've not specifically said so, then surely it's okay.
Yeah. What would be bad is if you like this episode, I'm trying to think of similar ones. We haven't had that many episodes that close to this. If you are fascinated by people who've been through hard situations, Rachel ran away from a bear while trail running in America and had to spend a night up a tree. That was an incredible episode.
Charlie Webster episode as well on a near-death experience.
That's just an incredible episode. And yeah, and that was similar level of nutsness and as close to death. I mean, she was in a coma and maybe was dead. I can't remember if she was dead or not.
She was in a coma for ages, wasn't she? And from again, a situation that didn't really think it was going to turn into that. From nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. And then if you wanted to listen to things about cold temperature, one episode I thought was amazing was Jenny Davis, who had done 2 attempts on the South Pole and sadly hasn't failed in both. And but she's just a brilliant storyteller, and she had some pretty tough times through those experiences as well. And if there's guests you'd like us to interview in the future, then message me, david@badboyrunning.com, or message us on Instagram. And we just had a meeting today with all the team. We're going to be posting more regularly, questions in advance and things like that, get a bit more organised. So if you want to ask questions to future guests, then follow us on Instagram, and you'll then be able to ask your guests directly to the speakers.
If you want to join the conversation, head over to the Facebook group, type in Bad Boy Running Podcast, answer 3 questions, and join the conversation going on there. If you want merch, store.badboyrunning.com. Lorna is ready and willing to take your orders and send you some red tat.
And remember to subscribe, and please leave us a lovely 5-star review, because it really helps with our credibility and visibility and helps us get good guests in the future. There are tickets to the run show in January in Birmingham. They're actually going to sell the tickets now. They've told us tickets, unlike and run cycling shows, outdoor shows, where they give free tickets right up to the day. They've realised they're now popular enough that they don't need to do that. So get your free ticket. Use code FYB. Running show, and we have Gary Robbins there. We've got Dean Karnassis. Got some other incredibly lovely people. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Fuck you, buddy.